To my colleagues who say that if we expand the court, Republicans may do it back at some indeterminate time in the future, understand that the nightmare scenario of GOP court packing is already upon us. That's how they got this far-right 6-3 majority in the first place. Following the death of Antonin Scalia, Mitch McConnell and his Republican allies in the Senate left open Merrick Garland's seat for 14 months. And then they went back on their non-existent rule that they invented for cynical purposes to rush through the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett as a presidential election was already underway and as millions of votes had already been counted.
Yeah, he ran away from Sean Maloney, who moved into a safer district, who's head of the DCCC. He's a conservative Dem. And like, I want to tell you something, chat. Like, this is what's happening, man. Ted Cruz wants to make gay marriage illegal again. This is reality. This is reality. These psychos are not just some weird fringe people. They are the people that are in ascendancy. Unless Democrats like John, I mean, I think we're already fucked, honestly. Like, mentally, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the Democrats just are not riling people up on abortion. They're just sitting on their lazy fucking asses, sniping the left as usual.
Obergefell, like Roe versus Wade, ignored 2 centuries of our nation's history. Marriage was always an issue that was left to the states. In Obergefell, the court said, no, we know better than you guys do, and now every state must sanction and permit gay marriage. I think that decision was clearly wrong when it was decided. It was the court overreaching.
Yes, there's Cancun Cruz on his podcast, because that's what senators do instead of legislating. Talking about Obergefell versus Hodgins, which of course gave gay Americans the right to marry, and saying that it was an overreach. And so ultimately setting up what I think we've all known for a few weeks now, or maybe months, or maybe since Donald Trump was elected in 2016, that absolutely the Supreme Court and Republicans have LGBTQ plus rights on the chopping block, in addition to, of course, abortion rights. He added that it would be, quote, more than a little chaotic for the Supreme Court to overturn gay marriage, and he doesn't believe the current justices have any appetite for overturning any of these decisions. Oh, but they just did. They just did, and not only did they, but in Clarence Thomas's decision, he also made clear that all this stuff is on the chopping block. Lawrence and the right to contraception is on the chopping block. Obergefell is on the chopping block. So he wrote, in fact, he writes, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, Obergefell, because any substantive due process decision is demonstrably erroneous. Ramos versus Louisiana, we have a duty to, quote, correct the error established in those precedents, Gamble v. United States. So again, these are all right to privacy issues, right? These are all 14th Amendment rights, rights that stem from the 14th Amendment. But Ted Cruz is not the only one. You got Josh Hawley telling reporters in May that he believed that Obergefell was, quote, wrongly decided, but he believed it was settled law and he would be shocked if it were overturned. Would you? Would anyone be shocked at this point if it were overturned? Senator John Cornyn earlier this year went so far as to say that Obergefell created a right, quote, not even mentioned in the Constitution. Yeah, great. Neither is the word abortion. Again, that's not how it was founded. And therefore called the court's independence and legitimacy into question. So Cornyn's on board, Josh Hawley's on board. He doesn't think it's gonna happen, but he probably, he'll be fine if it does. And then you've got Ted Cruz, of course, trying to out MAGA everyone, saying trying to sort of try his like little Ben Shapiro act on. Like,
I mean, this is I mean, he was the Solicitor General of Texas, and he argued this shit at the time. This isn't new. This is not new shit, folks. This is very old shit. This is who they are. Wow, you fell for the fact that a bunch of Republicans who were cosmopolitan elites after decades in office decided, I know so many gay people, they should be able to be married. That wasn't a victory of some sort of sustained movement that led to the culmination of some sort of like legislation like the Civil Rights Act. It was random Republican judges deciding they had personally changed their mind because we're ruled by a fucking 9 unelected clerics. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Well, I mean, it was completely wrongly decided. It was a complete overreach. And that's incredible, right? Here we are staring down the idea that we're going to roll back the right to marry who you want because the court overreached. That's overreach to allow you to marry? It's overreach. It's overreach. And abortion rights, allowing you to choose when and if you become a parent, that's not overreach. Forced birth isn't overreach. I mean, it really is. It's incredible because before you were like, and Jake, I want to kick it to you, but like, before it's like, well, the economy can do whatever it wants. The markets, we're slaves to the market. Let them go whatever they want. Citizens United, this is great. Let's pour money into our political system. And no one should infringe the right of the market. And then I feel like a lot of people were more complacent. Okay, well, as long as we have personal rights. Now personal rights are gone. Unless it's the right to bear arms. So I don't know, armed fetuses, guys. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah, the only right they believe in is the right to murder people. That's it. So, okay, now look, guys, this issue is super easy. And let's take this one literally, okay? So Ted Cruz says court overreaches, so they should go back to the days where gay marriage was illegal. Okay, and the Republican Party at the state level has passed over 600 laws in just the last couple of years against LGBTQ community. Okay, that's real. That's happening in all the states, and they're taking away people's rights as we speak. Okay, so if you're a person out there who's a right winger, you say no, gay marriage, of course, should not be allowed. Why? Straight marriage is allowed. Straight people are American citizens with 100% of the rights of citizenship. Gay people are American citizens with 100% of the rights of American citizenship. So why should they have less rights, like not have the right to get married, along with all the other rights that come along with that, the right to visit your spouse in the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Well, you think they shouldn't be allowed because you're a hateful person. If you think that, there is no dispute. These are rock hard facts. You can say, there's good reason why I hate gay people, or I think they're inferior to us, or I think they should have less rights than us because the Bible told me so, my preacher told me so, Donald Trump told me so, the invisible man in the sky told me so. Whatever, okay, it doesn't matter why you think that, but you do think it. You think they should have less rights than you, so you don't believe in equality. That's a fact. You don't believe in justice. That's a fact. You're a hateful person.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think people don't realize just how precarious this shit is. And marriage hasn't been left to the states since Loving v. Virginia, which was a case in 1967, that said that laws against interracial marriage were null and void. Both my parents were born before interracial marriage was legalized. That shows you how recent that is. Hey, Jinx, what's up? Jinx, you didn't go to Amsterdam. Hate to see it. But I'm going to go, don't worry, chat. I will go to California. Ugh. I can already feel the sun beaming down on me. All the cancer-causing rays shining on my fresh, white skin. my pale, translucent skin. Depending on the traction, I could totally see them going after interracial marriage. I mean, if you leave marriage back up to the states, then you could presumably ban interracial marriage. That has a long history in our country But if you teach that history, this is the conservative argument right now, chat. You have no rights that don't have a long tradition in our country. But if you teach the kids the traditions of the country and the law of the country in the past, you're doing critical race theory. So you only have rights that have a long tradition that we will not teach you, because if we do, that's critical race theory. And you're being taught to hate America. That's incredible! Right. Who is paler, you or Elon? Also, is Elon being rinsed by another man? Like, what's going on? I would say that I am not quite this pale. He has to water his hair plugs?
That's praxis.
Average Dutch person.
And that's a fact. Mm-hmm. These things are indisputable. That's on you, brothers and sisters. If that's what you believe, you don't realize it, but you're the bad guy in the movie. You're the
that's
person that everybody goes, oh, I hope they...
What a surprise. What a surprise.
But I generally try to do the right thing.
All right, we'll watch this after this.
They don't win. My God, they seem to hate all these people, right? So that's who the Republicans are. Don't tell me that you don't hate gay people when you pass over 600 laws against them. Don't tell me that you don't hate gay people
when I get on with you.
If you say they shouldn't have the same rights as straight people. You're not allowed to say that. By the way, don't tell me that you're against big government if you say the government should be so big, it should tell you who you can marry, who you can love, who you can have sexual relations with, okay, who you can cuddle with, who you can hug, who you can hold. Mm-hmm. No, you love big government. Don't tell me you're against government tyranny when the government, according to you, should tell you who you should love and not love. No.
So, like, the thing about conservatives is the essence of conservatism is simply there should be people that the law protects but does not bind, and other people that the law binds but does not protect. They want to be able to do whatever the fuck they want and not have to worry about the laws. And if you try to do something they don't approve of, the law is going to be there to control you. It's very straightforward. You are lesser than them. That's the entire argument. That's it. I think LA is great. I just wish that LA had high quality public transit. Like LA with trams and like more walkability would be so fucking based. But I always feel like I don't know, man. I went there like at the very beginning of the corona, like almost before coronavirus started. People started getting like hiding off, and it was like, imagine if there were trams and light rail that just zipped you all around in LA. Like how based would that be? Like when you're in like say I don't know Vienna, you can walk out your door. There's a you can hop on public transit and you can get to the center of the city from like the outskirts in like 25 minutes, 30 minutes. There's also suburb to suburb train, right? Like you don't have to go to the center of the city to go to another like exurb or suburb part of the city, further out reaches. You could just go direct. They have those suburb to suburb or outer ring to outer ring rails like routes as well. It's just better, Before the streetcar conspiracy, we had the best streetcars in the world. All the way to San. I know, it's insane, dude. It's so insane that it's not like that. What a bummer, man. I used to take a 2-hour bus ride and trolley ride just to get home from high school. Fucking gross. Fucking gross.
No, you love government tyranny as long as it's by right-wing fascists like yourselves. So that's the facts about the Republican Party.
Everybody,
and the only reason why you haven't ever heard it.
Follow our friends and gift Jinx a sub. What the fuck? Oh, that already happened. Never mind. Jinx is already subbed. No big deal.
This clearly before is because mainstream media is obsessed with filleting the right
Avatar
wing.
Avatar is funny.
So they're like, oh no, the right wing. This guy's just saying the right wing. We love you, right wing. Oh, the right wing voters, the Republican voters, they're the heartland. They're the heartland. They're beloved voters. I can't tell who's right and who's wrong. Maybe gay people shouldn't have the same rights. Maybe, I can't tell. I'm 50-50 on it. So no, it's the lies of mainstream media that has protected awful, hateful Republicans my whole life.
Yeah, it's exactly. Let's just hear them out. Everyone's have a different opinion, and that's how they really are. Texas is already floating other laws that have been introduced in just 2020 and 2021. These have been proposed, and they're trying to litigate and move through courts issues around religious liberty for healthcare workers when it comes to what? Attending gay people. So if you're bleeding out and you go to an ER and you're a woman and you go with your wife, the doctor can say, sorry, I can't attend you because it's against my religious belief to discriminate because my loving God wants.
I think one of the things is like, I am an older guy and Jank was there in the beginning of the online left. Also, I'm old, so I no longer cringe. You know what I mean? I've killed the part of me that cringes. You know, I don't care if someone thinks you're being cringe. Fuck you. I think when you're young, being cringe is like very, very up on your priority of things to avoid. And so you kind of try to do this like cooler than everything. Like if somebody asks you like, oh, do you like this? You're like, yeah, it's okay. It's because you're worried about being cringe. And I think like the entire way that we look at cringe is fucking right wing, man. I think it has to do with, I think there was a video that I'll give you an example. ContraPoints made about cringe. I think she made a video on cringe that is very good. There was like two types of cringe basically. There was like this empathetic cringe or sympathy cringe, like you could see someone doing something that, like, say someone drops a glass of water on their crotch and they have to walk down the street with a, it looks like they pissed their pants. You kind of like go, oh no, and you kind of sit there and you sympathize with it. And then there's like this kind of like malicious bullying cringe where you try, and I think the internet is like so addicted to malicious bullying cringe. It's so fucking obnoxious too, because it's not even funny. It's just like, meh, okay. At least for me, I just look at it and I'm like, eh. Matt Crispin has a good rant in being in favor of cringe. Basically, being cringe means you're authentic. You're not layered in 8 layers of irony. You're not doing meta irony and that's like Zoomer fucking culture right there. Is that JW? Thanks for the tier 3. So I don't know, man. You haven't considered the rotten brain every Zoomer has thanks to never had to have lived without the internet. I think it adds to self-consciousness and isolation. True. Being cool means not having strong feelings one way or the other. Yeah, I think that sometimes like when you lose your cool, that could be bad or optically bad. But you can be cold.
That's praxis.
Wolf Glenn.
Thanks for helping.
I've said this like a number. I've had this conversation before. I've said these talking points before. I just find it fucking weird when people are like, so and so is cringe, and it's like, what does that even mean? Legitimately, what do you even mean? I know what you mean, but I don't think you know what you mean. What, Jank gets a little bit too fired up? He yells a little bit too much? What? Like, what is cringe about Jank? He has slightly bad takes on some things that we disagree with. What is cringe? Megan, thanks for the prime.
It's me to watch you guys bleed out because you're lesbians. That's where we're headed. Forget cakes. You guys thought, baking a cake, was a big thing. It's getting way worse than that. And it's actually out of step. And so I'm curious as to everybody's thoughts on, is this gonna?
I mean, I do sometimes. I get like that too. I guess I just feel too much. I identify too much with what Jank does.
Bite them in the butt. Is this, turning around on them, considering how popular abortion rights are, despite this so-called win for them?
It's cringe to try to prevent your employees from unionizing. As far as I understand, they negotiated, and it's at the end, and they accepted it. I don't know what. Like, I think another thing is that people can't let things drop. When Jank and TYT had some sort of like initial posture that was bad against some of their employees trying to unionize, but later they fucking accept them, voluntarily recognize, sign a contract. It's like, okay, let's move the fuck on already. Like, you got what you wanted. We got what we wanted. But 2 years ago, we didn't get what I wanted for a fucking week. Therefore, you're bad forever. It's like, what the fuck? Let shit die already. Die, my God.
According to a Gallup poll released last month, and this has to do with obviously same-sex couples and relationships, 71% of Americans say they support same-sex marriage. And Republicans, who have consistently been the party that least favors same-sex marriage, shows a majority support in 2021 for the first time, 55%. Not bad, GOP base. The latest increase in support among all Americans is driven largely by changes in Republicans' views. It's kind of like when progress happens, you start to get used to it. Like when interracial couples are allowed to be freely out and about and marry and not fear for their lives. you just kind of incorporate that as a bigot. You're like, oh, maybe that's normal. It is normal. And there is nothing abnormal about going and getting married.
It's important that we remember that things can go backwards. I think one of the things that bothers me is like people think of progress as this. I think there's this one phrase that I think it comes from Martin Luther King Jr., but I heard Obama say it a lot because it's the libs' favorite thing, which is the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. That is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. The arc of history bends toward the heat death of the universe, not justice. Shut up. Human beings are an insignificant cosmic speck. And the society that we live in, the happiness that we subjectively feel and the conditions that we all share is entirely dependent upon what we do now, actively and with intent. Not some sort of fantasy ghost or spirit that's just going to make things better over time. That is a fantasy. That is bullshit. That is just world theory. And you are not helping yourself when you anesthetize yourself to injustice by huffing that copium. You know, Jewish people were fully integrated into German society, and they were out and about, and they had inter-religious marriages, and there were people, and there were all sorts of shit in modern Germany of, you know, being Jewish. Yeah, there were some bigots, but you were integrated into society. And then that changed, and those people got killed. Your corpse rotting in a mass grave. I hate to make it so vivid, but come on, man. That's an insulting turn of phrase for the millions of people that died in the triangular slave trade, or the millions upon millions of indigenous people that have been wiped out. It's fucking disgusting to say that shit. Progress is what we make and what we maintain. Think of progress like a dam. If you let the maintenance fall away, if you do not build it up, if you do not man it, if you do not use it, it will collapse and wipe out everything you built and more.
Thanks for 8 months. You're a clear voice in an unclear world. Cheers.
And if you let yourself slack, if you lower your fucking guard 1 minute from the right, they can come and sweep it all away. Does that sound tiring to you? Too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. You could take that as a challenge, or you could see it as an excuse. Pick one. And that tells you what kind of person you are. Off Round TV, thanks for the 8 months in the Prime. Appreciate that.
Married to your wife or husband of the same sex. So it's insane. There's other stats we could go to as well.
Yeah, I want to go to those, Francesca. So yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want people to understand it's not. Do I look like I'm pulling my punches against Republican voters? No. Okay, but it's not all Republican voters, and it is.
Well, here's an example. This should be obvious for any of you that are out in LA. This is the old streetcar network and interurban railway, 1941. We got some famous streets here. We got Venice Boulevard. We got Sunset Boulevard. We have Jefferson Boulevard. What else? We got Broadway. What's the other street that we recognize, chat? Ramona, Huntington Drive. Here's a interurban railway for Glendale. Here's Sunset. Again, this is the city in 1941. We had a line running through Skid Row. And here is the region. Here's the regional rail. Up to San Bernardino. We have
7 months.
Burbank up here.
Comrade. Vulcan salute.
You had something that, you know, should have been built upon, and instead has been cleaned out. Ooh, I want to check one out. Here's one. Pittsburgh, 1954. Look at that. That's going way the fuck out. This is way outside the city. Right over here, this part of the town is like this is all like residential stuff. Wow. Let's check. Let's see if it got worse or better. So we got the next one. 61. Now what is it like? Let's look at the newest one, 2012. Damn. All right, let's keep going.
Certainly not the majority of the country. I don't want people to mistake that, okay?
It
is extremist, zealot, racist, bigoted, homophobic Republicans that have taken control over their party and that are driving their party and this country off a cliff. They're the ones that are filled with hate. Because let me give you these numbers. So 64% of voters are concerned about same-sex marriage becoming illegal. So that's about 2/3 of the country who say, no, we want gay people to have the same rights in marriage as straight people. 2/3 of Americans are good guys, okay? 79% of voters are concerned about the states restricting access to birth control and other forms of contraception. That's 8 out of 10 Americans. Okay, everybody's clear except the right wingers that control the Republican Party. 78% of voters are concerned about doctors, nurses, and others, and other medical professionals facing lawsuits or criminal charges for providing necessary reproductive health care. By the way, Republicans are threatening to do that right now. So they're against 78% of Americans. They're looking to imprison the doctor in Indiana that performed an abortion on a 10-year-old girl who was raped, okay? More, 89% of voters are concerned about victims of rape or incest being forced to give birth to their abusers' children. 9 out of 10 Americans don't want it. But the Republican Party is making that happen in over half the country. They're such an extreme party. That's why I get so mad at the media for not being honest and calling it 50-50. Last one, 66% of voters are concerned about transgender individuals losing access to medical care.
That's huge.
2/3 of the country that wants to protect transgender people.
Huge.
But it's the zealots that are the minority, the hateful minority that is the Republican Party leadership that is driving this country off a cliff.
Well, it is Democratic leadership that's driving us off the cliff. We're being accurate.
2/3 of Americans are progressive, and they want decency, equality, and justice for all.
Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap